from the river and do that. So that's one example. But on the other extreme, do I want to be a Warren Buffett, or live a lifestyle that is like crazy rich Asian, or even you just want to have a moderate lifestyle? So first you have to determine your aspiration, right? So do you want to go jet setting, or are you happy just pergi mengaji dekat pondok when you're old to focus on your next life, right? So these are lifestyle choices. But up to a certain level, you need money, right? You need money to buy things, yeah? But although I have to caution that in this age of materialism, age of consumerism, is people, spending money they don't have through getting credit, purchasing things that they don't need to impress people who don't even care about them. So we need to have a mindset shift. So when you think about retirement, you have to think like this. Where is the income going to come from when you are retired? When you no longer work, when you are semi-working? Because you're not going to work forever. Up to a point, a person can no longer be productive. Although in some cultures, they can be productive. If I'm a surgeon, after a while, tangan I ketak-ketak juga kan. So that means you need to understand your limits. So how much is enough? First, determine some basic level. So if you have house, you have children to care for you, because we're a sandwich generation and you know that you have children, then in a way, familial structure can come in to support the rest. So at the very basic level, from the EPF perspective, we say that, okay, at the minimum level, if you don't have anything else, you need 240,000 in today's terms. So that is like 1,000 ringgit just to buy food. We expect that you have already shelter over your head, staying with somebody, or you have your own house. But if you want a better lifestyle, which is comfortable, we define that as adequate savings. And that adequate savings, we benchmark that against a single elderly person needing about 2,500 per month, and times 12 times 20, and you get 600,000. So that's basic, and the second level is adequate. The third level we call enhance. Enhance, we times 2 the adequate level. But then you determine your number, because that's what we are saying based on average, right? What a typical person needs, right? But coming back to the number to answer your question, there are a few methods to determine what's a good number. So right now, let's say you're comfortable, Erin, to live with 10,000 ringgit per month, right? Because she wants her makeup, whatever. So then you times 12 for 12 months, times 20, yeah? But that's for my generation. But for future generation, 1 in 3 children of Gen Y will live to be 100 years old. And the longest living person in modern age, she lived to be 122 years old. Her name is Jean Comment. So okay, that's number 1. So you take your number right now, you kali 12, kali 20, that's your number. But the other method is to look at 70% of that income, assuming at age 60, you would have paid up your mortgage, you'd have covered your car loans, and all the big ticket items are being paid off. So
which
that's
unfortunately
the magic.
is not always the case in reality for most people, perhaps.
Yeah. It's not the reality, but then that's why how you determine a number. But then you need to then make a plan on how to get there if you're...
Balqais, thank you for that. Erin, I'm coming to you. As a younger person who's really involved in a lot of investments, and you have sound knowledge in this area, how much is enough?
Back to Kak Balqais' answer, it really depends on lifestyle. I've got friends who are okay with living with 5,000 bucks per month. I've got friends who needs 10,000. In my case, with my mortgage, the car, and the investments, it differs. It depends on lifestyle, most importantly, especially when we're living in KL, where inflation is high. Look at how much we're paying for parking, guys. Parking di pavilion berapa? Tak campur makan lagi, right? Tak campur all the boba tea, whatever, stuff like that. That's like 1 cup is how much? So it goes back to lifestyle. And with regards to lifestyle, it tends to be a habit where are we able to part with these things when we are at an age where I'm so used to all these, how do I part with certain things just to make ends meet? So I don't have a definitive answer to how much is enough, But just from statistics that we've done, because I recruit people and we have a chart, people staying in KL, if you want to be comfortable M40, emerging M40 to upper M40, 5,000 is the baseline income.
5,000 monthly.
5,000 monthly is a baseline income, and you must have 20% allocation for investment. 5,000 is not 5,000 you boleh spend all. You have to eventually take out 20% for your investment, for your savings. Yeah.
Fazlina, I see you there with your finger. You're thinking very deep. I know you have something to say. Tell us.
Yeah, so they are the numbers person. Yeah, so they make the money. I got the money.
All right. I like that.
Yeah, so they are the angels for investments and everything. Now, as what Erin has just said just now, we have to start with habit, right? And in terms of the amount, again, it all depends on your needs, your desire, you know. And one thing, if let's say, if anything were to happen to you, and if you have loans with you, be sure that the banks won't forgive the loan, okay? They'll come and haunt you at your grave, okay? So I think it's very important. I'm bringing back to the drawing board why planning is very important, Jessy. Because you can have big number, small number, but if you don't plan as to how much income you have, as how much liabilities you have, then during your retirement years, you're going to have an issue of how do you manage your liabilities when there's no more income in place. That's number one. Number two, tiba-tiba you mati, you meninggal, right? Who's going to take care of the debts? Because the financial institution is not going to forgive the loan. It's your family member that's going to take over that loan, right? And is that something that you want to leave behind for your families? So I think going back to the question, how much is enough? It all depends on your needs, your family dynamics, and also in terms of what you want to leave behind for your family members. I mean, you don't need to leave anything if you don't want to. It's really entirely your choice, right? But for Muslims, we believe in afterlife. And we believe that when we pass on, everything stops except for our charity, right? Our prayers to righteous children, to the parents, and your ongoing education for the community. So if that is already your intention when you've passed on, then it's good. I mean, if you're ready to live with that, then that's fine. But if you have families on the side, you have children, you need to plan.
You need to start planning today.
Today.
Fazlina, a lot of people are going to
Have
come
that
and see
habit,
you
14
after
days,
this.
get it started.
That's right, 14 days to create and stick to that habit.
So
Please
can I
add
just
on,
say
Faz.
something, just a short advertising. By the way, money in EPF is protected against any creditor's claim. The banks cannot come after you. Just to say that.
You can put up to 100,000 now, right? 100,000 ringgit a year.
Outside money can, on voluntary basis, can go up to 100,000. So it's very important that you diversify your portfolio. I'm not saying that put everything there, not put your eggs in one basket, but it's also important to know, I think most people don't know that. And in a way, a lot of the money there is also tax-free because, you know, you don't pay tax. In other countries, there are penalties for early withdrawals, so on and so forth.
Right. Very quickly, roundtable. I'd like to get your opinion on how women can grow their savings or investments for the future. That's a question even I would like to know. I'd like to pick all your brains. We don't have much time left on the clock today. I know it's been so interesting, but that's why the networking session is there. Balqais, perhaps I'll start with you.
Okay, I think number one, you first have to pay yourself. You always forget your future self because it's not going to happen today. You put priorities on current needs, right? So pay your future self first, and then you spend for your commitments and your financial needs on other things. So rule number one is to know 50, 30, 20. So 50% for your expenses, 30% for your commitments to get loans and mortgage, and 20% for savings and investments. That's like a great thing if you can do that. But for those people that can't do that, you can also work on 40, 40, 20, yeah, or 50, 40, 10. So you can vary that based on your needs. So to say that people cannot save, I think it can be done. It requires discipline, right? So Warren Buffett started saving when he's 10 years old. By age 30, he already is a multimillionaire. By 96, he has $90 billion in his account. But if Warren Buffett is a normal human being, with that habit, he will still accumulate $12 million by the age of 60. So it can be done. It's not impossible.
Can be done, ladies and gentlemen. You can start today. It's never too late, right?
Yeah, and if I can say some EPF statistics, if you're earning minimum wage 1,500 ringgit, if you don't do any withdrawal and you leave the money there, you will have close to 900,000 just with 5 to 6% increase in terms of dividends. So we pay more than double the principal that you put in because of the way that we're designed. Like mentioned by Erin, the power of compounding works like miracle over 50, 70 years.
Thank you so much, Balqais. Erin, how can women grow their savings and investments in future in 30 seconds, if you can?
Look at yourself, having to maintain the lifestyle that you have right now, allocate that money for that. Like for example, Erin, you want to maintain this kind of lifestyle, allocate a portion of your income today for Erin in the future, because you don't want Erin in the future who's older to be suffering and to be working hard like how you were when you were younger. So that's the mentality that I tell myself. It's always how we tell ourselves. And how to do it is simple. You got to make sure you consciously allocate it outside your bank account, invest it somewhere else that gives bigger return than our current inflation.
Thank you so much, Fazlina.
Yeah. So we've heard all is gold, right? We've heard this term, all is gold. And you don't want to retire feeling sad, having nothing in your pocket. So you have to make sure that you create the habit, making sure that you have that plan, what you want to leave behind for your families. And as what Balqais said, you have an institution that supports a safe place to invest and making sure that your money grows for your retirement. And what currently EPF is doing is something commendable, and we are blessed to have them to come forward and to address this issue, because we are an aging population. People are living longer, right? And I said just now, are we living better in terms of financially? If you don't plan from now, then how do you make sure that when you retire, you want to retire with good lifestyle? You want to retire not being depressed of not having money, right? So how do we want to upkeep them? You got to plan. If you don't plan, then you will suffer the consequences.
Perhaps at this juncture, you could walk us through and say a few words when it comes to the role and services for women by Maybank Trustees.
Okay, so as I mentioned just now, death is certain, it's when, and it is also that we must understand why we have to plan ahead, because we cannot time death, right? So that is why I'm a big advocate to make people understand why having a tool such as will or wasiat is important to make sure that whatever that you leave behind is being managed and administered properly. That's number one. Number two, I think also particularly for the Muslims, we always have this thought that bila dah ada faraid, kenapa perlu ada wasiat? Yeah. So during your lifetime, who takes care of your assets? Who takes care of your liabilities? It's yourself, right? So when you pass on, who is going to take care of that first before faraid comes? So faraid is a distribution. When you have a wasiat instrument in place, you have two phases. You need somebody to step into your role to administer before the distribution comes into play. All right. So this is what we do in Maybank Trustees. We are a subsidiary of the Maybank Group. We've been here for over 60 years. And why we want to advocate people in writing a will, because that is the basic estate planning tool that everybody must have, right? More so if you're mother, if you have children below 18, in the event if anything were to happen to both of you, the parents, both the mother and the father, who's going to be the guardian for your children? Yeah, by having that will or WhatsApp instrument in place, you have the advantages of appointing someone who knows your family dynamic, who can take care of your children, who can take over your role when you're not around. So coming to all, when we talk about money, retirement, now, if anything were to happen to you, who's going to take care of this money? Yeah, so that's why planning is very important. And at Maybank Trustees, we help clients to look into what are the assets that you have. If anything were to happen to you today, what is your game plan? So this is the conversation that we do for our clients. And of course, if let's say you have specific wishes, if you have, let's say, if you want to take care of your aging parents, or if you have special need child, do you want to set up a trust fund for them when you're not around? Because don't forget, the moment you pass on, all your assets are frozen. So until then, until you get the surat kuasa, you can't touch that money. So in the course of waiting for the surat kuasa to come out, how do you make sure that your family is being taken care of? More so when you have small children, right? So this is something that we do on daily basis. This is my bread and butter. Like I said, I'm the financial guardian, right? So they are the one who makes the money for you, and I'm here to protect your money.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing as well. Move on to EPF, Balqais. Perhaps you could also explain a little bit of EPF's role in terms of services for women.
I think one of the critical changes that Malaysians need to see about the EPF going forward is EPF is not a savings institution. We are a retirement income security institution. So we need this paradigm shift whereby we shouldn't see our lump sum as the sole thing that we're waiting for when you reach 55 or 60. So how do you make your money last longer? You think like, I need monthly income, so treat it like that. So I think that's the biggest shift that I need to work with all of us Malaysians in terms of having this paradigm shift, which is not happening right now because we are so used to having lump sum. It worked when life expectancy was 54 years old in 1950 when EPF was set up. But today, fast forward like 70 years, going forward, EPF's role needs to evolve. And life expectancy today for women is 78. It's going to be longer and longer. By 2050, life expectancy in Malaysia will reach 80 years old. So you need to plan for that eventuality because you need that income, that lifeline, so to speak. It doesn't matter even if you don't take all of it, you can leave some so that you continue to get income. Because you see, when you leave your money, your principal, in 40 years with us, maybe that principal will grow 5, 10 times. But over 70 years, that money can grow to become 30 times more than you have. Because even if you're 60, the compounding still works. If you run a calculator on compounding, you will see that at first it's kind of linear, then it goes exponential, and then it just went insane, right? So we need to understand that and appreciate what we have. Yeah. So we are hoping that Malaysians can start planning, and of course I want to say this also. I think in the US, you know that there's a movement, they call it FIRE movement, right? So financial independence, retire early, right? So they try to grow their portfolio to a certain level, and then they will spend just the dividends from that portfolio. So looking at that, I just want to give 2 more tips before I hand over to the Madam MC here. So like, how do you then plan for your accumulation. Decumulation comes from the word accumulation, but you de-accumulate. So first you accumulate when you're productive, then you start to de-accumulate, right? So then the way that you don't want to erode your financial well-being is do not decumulate more than 4% of your portfolio. But if you look at your portfolio, let's say you have ₱1,000,000, if there's no growth in that portfolio, the 4% rule means your money will last 25 years. If you take 3% of your savings, that 3% means you can live for 33 years. That's how the time it will last. Unless you just live on the dividends and you juggle the capital. Or if you use 2% of your portfolio, then you will stretch the money to 50 years. So we need to start thinking like that, right? And then going back to investing, how safe is investing in terms of putting in higher risk instruments? So we would recommend that you use the Rule 100. Rule 100 means that you take 100, you minus your age. So that gentleman looks like he's 20 years old. So that means you can put the maximum 80% into equities, right? So you can use that as a rule, but that doesn't mean that you max it out. So we need to understand those rules, in terms of investing, those rules for withdrawing and utilizing your EPF wisely, right? Because you need to make sure that it does not outlive you. Because you need to care for long-term care, because in this country, healthcare is geared to short-term care and hospitalization. We don't talk about long-term care, a person being bedridden and needs care on a day-to-day basis. Who's going to finance that? Do you have that? So we also understand from survey that they prefer to age in place. They don't want to go to live in retirement homes. But if you can afford it, you can afford care at home. But if you cannot, you need to start planning for that eventuality, I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That rounds out our panel discussion for today. It has been truly insightful, and I think many key takeaways here. There's so much to reflect on as well, and to really understand that although we get the concepts of investment and saving for retirement and for having trust, it is the finer points that we really need to learn. I think I've also picked up quite a bit here today. First and foremost, we begin with habits, getting that in place, ensuring there's a plan for post-death for our loved ones as well, and understanding how EPF also works and what we can do when we contribute, and how that curve can also facilitate our retirement plans. I had more questions about, do we buy the branded bag and do we invest in this and that? But I think we'll leave that for the networking session. You can direct all your questions to our experts up here later on during the financial session, the networking session. Right, so we move on now to our confession box, the little mystery boxes in which all of you have left anonymously your confessions. I'd like to actually open up the floor to get 2 volunteers up here. We'll start with 1 volunteer first, who will pick out questions from this box, and I think it's going to be really exciting to find out some people's confessions here. So can I get a volunteer up on stage? We have one on standby. Fantastic. Okay, lucky pick out from the confession box.
Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Thank you for you lovely ladies for opening up the panel and talking about the finances. So I have 2 confessions here. They're not mine, just to be clear. Okay, so I'll read the first one. It seems that we are addicted to loans and our salary are only the way to pay it. How do we overcome this? That's the first question. So the second one is, this one's a bit of a long one. My parents have a business and are forcing me to join that business. Yes, it has supported our very comfy lifestyle, but I want to have my own career. But my friend says that I'm not that great and should just benefit from my family's business. What should I do? Is that really your friend? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, ladies, I hope you've heard that questions. Let's start with the first one. It's become almost a habit to get into loans. How do you perceive this, and what can be done to undo that? Opening up to anyone who's ready to answer.
Can I answer this?
Sure,
Sorry.
Erin.
Loans. There are many types of loans out there: business loans, personal loans, mortgage, car, right? What do you think? What are the two loans that you feel is slightly safer than the other two? Can I hear? House, very good. Mortgage, another one? Car, right? What about personal loans? What do you think about personal loans? Exactly. Okay, so here's the thing. Loans are loans, and obviously kita macam pinjam duit lah. Imagine if the bank is not a bank and it's an along. You pinjam duit is a loan, correct? So loans in this day and age is so highly hyped up, publicized, because of lifestyle that people has been showing. And I have, out of all my clients, I have a number, the younger below 30 clients, I do ask them on what loans they have. Because before we do submission, we have to do their financial health check to check how much loans they have. Most of them have personal loans. Most of them also took up personal loans before getting married. So here's the thing about loans. It's available everywhere. You go to any banks, if you were to say you want personal loan, it's easy for them to offer. And the loan officers in this day and age are also very, very aggressive. So having or selling loans, it's a normal thing. It's a day-to-day thing in this day and age. But you choose what loan you want to take up. If it helps to get you the car and you can pay your monthly loans, go ahead. If you choose to take out mortgage for your house, you can pay your monthly loan, go ahead. But always remember that interest comes into the picture as well. So in my case, I also have some clients who have retired, and the first thing they do with their money, once they get their money from EPF, thanks EPF, once they get their money from EPF, is settlekan hutang dahulu. If you look at loans like hutang, you'll be scared to take up loans. I think it goes back to mentality. It's not wrong, it's not right. It depends on how you utilize the loan, how you treat the loan, and how much you put into paying off the loan. So that's my opinion on loans. Whoever that asked the question, I hope you can educate and really, really feel it in yourself to takut sikit to take up too much loans.
Okay. Second question, or if Balqais and Fazlina, you have something to chime in for the first question on loans.
Just to add on that, like I said, I'm the financial guardian, right? Dah ambil hutang, make sure
Settle.
bayar. That's satu. Nombor dua, esok bila meninggal, siapa nak bayar hutang tu? So plan, ambil insurance. At least, bila dah meninggal, duit insurance tu boleh cover your liability. Nombor tiga, you beli insurance, you bayar premium kan? I jual insurance pula sekarang. You beli insurance, you bayar premium. So I'm going to share you one story. One of my clients during COVID, the early stage of COVID where you don't even want to touch that person. So he was medically induced into coma, and his wife came to us and said that, I've got bills to pay. Because he has business, right? And she has to pay the staff salary. So, macam mana nak ambil duit? Mamat tu ICU kot, right? How do you, the banker can't call the person because, there's no way that he can make any call back or what. So what he did was, he actually set up a trust with us, right? And under the trust, so what is the trust actually? Trust is, imagine rumah or imagine a Sendirian Berhad having assets inside the Sendirian Berhad and it holds it. If anything happens to you, that trust can jalan without being frozen. So I'm just giving you an analogy what trust is. So this person, he set up a trust, and under the trust, he had an investment portfolio, he had his family home, he had insurance policy. Now, during that time, because we are in need of money, so because the trust that he set up, he gives us the power that in the event if anything happens to him now, So technically he's incapacitated, right? So we are able to activate the trust and to take the money in the trust to fulfill the obligations that he had. But at that time, market was very down. Everything was in red. Whatever investments that he had, everything was in red. As a prudent trustee, it doesn't make sense for me to liquidate that investment. So what we did was we looked at what are the assets that he had under the trust. So it was the insurance policy.
Right.
So you pay premium, there's a cash value inside there. It
Yes.
behaves like a piggy bank. So we managed to withdraw sufficient funds from there, and were able to pay the bills as well as salary of the staff. So the message that I'm trying to say here, you don't need to even start having a trust or what, nothing. Number one, plan. Dah ada hutang, make sure there's a backup, how you're going to settle the loan, even when you're still alive. That's number one. Number two, again, I'm selling insurance here. Why I say insurance is very important, it is because when like the question just now, I have salary, I need to take loan, I cannot stop you from taking loan, right? Because we need some financial assistance, that's why we take loan, right? So, but you must have some plan and backup in place that if anything were to happen to you, there is insurance policy here, and it is important to start from young.
Okay, I got to jump to the next question. Thank you, Fazlina. The second question was, my family is forcing me into a business. What do I do about that, Balqais?
Okay, I think it's important to balance priorities with ourselves, because first you have to manage yourself. You need to manage upwards, which in this case your parents, and then you need to manage your peers, and then of course people that you know as well. So I guess it's balancing the priorities. But before you do that, my advice to the confessor is to do this. So find your ikigai. I don't know if you've heard of the term ikigai. Ikigai means like the reason you wake up in the morning. That is practiced by the Japanese people. So the first thing that you ask is that, does the world need this job that you want to do? Like for me, I'm a social security expert. Yes, the world needs social security people in public sector because we don't make profit from that, all right? So the world needs that. Number two, the question to ask is that, do you love doing that thing? So if I'm Siti Nohaliza, the world needs an entertainer, and I love singing, so that's great, right? But that doesn't fulfill everything, because do I get paid for it? So no point if I'm Balqais, I cannot sing to save my life. The world needs an entertainer. I love singing, but I suck as a singer. So I'm not going to make money from it. Nobody's going to invite me to sing. So you need to align these priorities. And lastly, are you good at it, right? So you need to ask those questions. So I don't know who's the friend that said that. So you find your ikigai. If your ikigai is aligned with what your parents are expecting, then that's awesome. Because then you're going to like what you're doing, because the world needs it. You love doing it, you get paid for it, and you're good at it. If not, if there's any one of these components are missing, so let's say I'm not good at it, I love doing it, the world needs it, and I get paid, but I get insecurity. I'm underperforming in my work, right? So even if I'm passionate about something, I don't get paid for it, then there's no point. I need to live and pay my bills. So you need to make sure that the ikigai is aligned to your priorities as well. So I think that's the first thing that you need to do to answer the question. But maybe, I don't know how the question is worded, maybe your friend had the best of intentions to make you realize certain things. Sometimes we cannot just tell people things they want to hear. A good friend will also tell you things in a nice way, of course, not being disrespectful or anything, tells you things that you need to hear. Things that you want to hear and things that you need to hear can be two different things. There are gaps. So
Facing the reality. You sometimes just have to face what is reality.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Balqais, for that. The confessions are coming through, but we can't take all. We've got another two on standby, so I'm looking for another volunteer. Please read out the confessions, or rather pick out that confession from the box. We have a volunteer on standby. Fantastic. Good questions coming from the floor. Thank you so much for these confessions. I think we can all understand where these comes from, because we are all familiar with some of these financial problems.
Hi everyone, my name is Keda, and I'll be asking 2 questions that are not mine.
Everyone
the
wants to put up the disclaimer.
The first question is, I don't buy many things, but when I do, I make big purchases because I felt like it and would compensate for all the money that I didn't use for the month. I am having trouble. I lack awareness of having enough money for the future. Second question.
So the first question was, I like buying things. I don't
Big
buy a lot,
purchases.
but when I buy, I buy, I buy everything. I spend a lot.
Lack
Buying.
awareness of having enough money for the future.
So that's why you are here today.
Yeah. Thanks for that question. Okay.
Second one, how do I convince my husband to invest and include me in hibah? We don't have a son. Sad wife.
That's a tricky
Send
one.
your husband to Maybank Trustees.
I want to take question number 2.
Okay. Let's start with question number 2 first. Erin, you want to go ahead?
Real life story. I just want to share with you guys. I have a friend, a couple. Well, the friend is a lady, and then there's the husband. Husband does not believe in takaful, does not believe in insurance, because he grew up in an environment where parents are comfortable and thinks that whatever that they have is enough. Kalau parents meninggal, pandai-pandailah anak-anak deal with things. Padahal agama kita Islam ni. Okay, patutnya kita kena menjaga anak cucu kita moving forward, betul? So I'll get back to English because I saw some faces already. Okay, here's the thing. I have a friend who purchased hibah life insurance. Life insurance, hibah is under takaful, which is Sharia. A lady friend who purchased hibah under her own name, paid by herself, because if anything were to happen to the husband, the wife will get it. Wife paid for the hibah under his name, nominated the wife. Because if anything were to happen to the husband, wife gets the money. Wife needs to sort out expenses. Your Netflix is going to continue. Your Netflix payment, your Celcom bills, your housing loan, your car loans are going to continue. So who's going to pay for it when the husband passed on, correct? The hibah will pay. So this is something that we need to continuously educate, just like what Kak Faz mentioned just now. People think buying insurance is just buying insurance, but you don't understand the purpose behind purchasing it. It's to menyenangkan, it's to continue the longevity, the livelihood of your family members, of the hutang-hutangs that you left, the loans that you left, the debts that you left for your family members to take after. So if your husband, I'm sorry for that lady who asked this question, but if your husband doesn't agree with this, make him sign the hibah that's paid by you. Because if you believe in it and you purchase it under your name, if anything were to happen to you, your husband will get it. But what happens if something happens to him and you get nothing? Okay? Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you for that. Those who fail to plan to fail. So you need to be prepared. Unfortunately, this is also something
So if I can just
reality.
add a little bit, I think to that person, it's a hard conversation. I think why she asked that question, because she's not able to convince the husband to do, right? So maybe one of the ways that we can help you is you come and talk to experts. You know, it doesn't have to be Maybank Trustee. It can be, there's so many other trustee companies that who does this. But what I'm trying to say here is you need to have this hard conversation with your spouse. If you don't have this hard conversation with your spouse, what makes you think when that hard situation happens, you are able to handle it? If you can't even carry this conversation now, think about how are you going to battle when that situation happens. I think that's more even worse than trying to push your husband to buy a hibah, because you must have that conversation first to understand the problem statement here. And then from there, you navigate your husband, both of you all together. And if you have children, more so a good reason as to why you must do something, and as to why you must have that hard conversation.
Right. Having those hard conversations. We're going to recap, but just before that, we have that question unanswered. I like to go out and spend money. I don't do it all the time, but when I do, I want to get something, that's has a big value.
Yeah, great question, by the way. Confession of a shopaholic. My kids gave me that book, and I said, okay, then I make some change, because it's very important. We are the role model, and they need to see, what's good. If you're not practicing it, you're not doing what you preach, then they will see there's a gap there, and they're not going to be doing that same thing as well. So I'm trying to do this behavioral change as well. Okay, just coming back to that person. So I think maybe I'll talk about that thing from two dimensions. Number one, I think a few things that you need to bucket, your thought patterns on. Yeah, is it something that you love? Is it something that you want? Is it something that you need? Is it something that you like? So you need to bucket the things and ask several questions, whether they pass some of those tests, right? So if it's something that I need a handphone, but I want an iPhone, that's a different thing, right? Or I need that Prada handbag, but actually I don't need a Prada handbag. I need a handbag to put my things. I want the Prada handbag, but I need maybe Chap Crocodile. I don't know, whatever, right? So you need to be able to differentiate the wants and the needs. But it's okay if you don't really spend a lot, but you save up for a big ticket item that you think you love. Love is like spending for your mother, for your parents, because they have given birth to you. You want to celebrate their birthday. Takkanlah you nak scream on that, right? You will want to spend and treat your parents well. So it's something that you love doing. So you need to be able to bucket these things and then ask if to differentiate once. Just ask your question, is it okay if I don't buy that thing? Am I still alive? So is it going to stop me from, doing certain things that's important or value adding to my life if I don't get it? You need time to wait for a week before you go and get it. Then you clear your mind. Otherwise, when you nampak benda tu kat depan, you're like, oh, I need to get this. So you get confused between wants, needs, like, and love. So what you need to consider important will be need and love. Want and like, you can differ. So I hope that dimension will help this person make a better decision, right? Number two is to start planning. I think just to mention again, you need to plan for short term, medium term, and long term. So this person that asked the question is at a short term need, medium term need, or long term need. So you need to start compartmentalizing our thought patterns in that sense to help us make better decisions, right? So then if it's something that is going to add value to your life, it's important. For example, having an education lengthen your life expectancy between 5 to 19 years. Stopping smoking will help a person who smokes extend life expectancy by 6 years. So make that choice today. If you have a sense of purpose in your life, you will extend your life expectancy, barring any act of God, by 7 years. If you belong to any faith-based groups or religious groups or even association, that will extend your life expectancy between 4 to 14 years. So it's important. Money is important, but it gets you to some degree. No money in the world can save Steve Jobs from leaving this world. So you need money, but you also need two more things. Your health. Health is wealth. And lastly, meaning, right? Meaning, because it's very important to create that sense of purpose. Once you have all these three things, then you will get the life that you need to lead. So I think that's my advice. Make sure all the priorities are balanced in that manner so that we live a dignified life, right? So please, I hope I've shared some enough knowledge.
Thank you so much. Indeed, fantastic sharing from our panelists. so much of experience and know-how in your areas, and we will be able to learn more from them during the networking sessions. Make sure you save your questions then. I know many of you have those questions. But for a quick recap, ladies and gentlemen, we look at some of the points that we had discussed today. Of course, it has been very obvious that planning is important, having a will in place is important, thinking about what you do in the event of your early demise, and also if you have a spouse, what do you do? What kind of conversations you need to have from an early point? Saving for your children early on as well. Insurance is important, but also I thought what was very interesting is that when you retire, it's not end game. You still need to have some income, a flow of money coming to you, and that your EPF savings is not just the end goal, that you need to have other sort of incomes as well. That goes back to fundamentally, Erin, habits, which can be, accumulated or can be sort of absorbed in 14 days if you make a conscious effort. Also very important, ladies and gentlemen, understanding the lifestyle that you have, evaluating that, changing your behavior if that lifestyle is not in line with how much savings you have at this point. How much is enough was the question there. Want and like, want and desire, that's important. Gets us into trouble sometimes when we overspend. But also finding your purpose and aligning it with what the Japanese call the ikigai. That's also important. So that has been the summary. Thank you so much once again, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, audience, for being part and being patient to listen in as well. At this point, I'd like to very much thank our speakers, Head of Policy and Strategy, Balqais Yusoff, Maybank Trustees, Berhad CEO, Nur Fazlina Muhammad Ghouse, and Financial and Wealth Planner, Erin Adlina Adnan, for your insightful discussion today. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Sinar Daily, we'd like to give a big thank you to all our sponsors, Maybank and EPF for today. Thank you also to Dua and Tani, Lavette, Clinell, Cleanse, Nourish, and Larry. Can we all please give them a big round of applause? It means a lot to be part of this conversation, to have you here with us today. Hello, this is Osana.
Currently, I am at a 3-part session.